Hi everyone, look, we're really excited to be here sharing some thoughts with you on how to jumpstart your recovery. I think when we were putting this talk together, we're very cognizant that the road ahead is going to be extremely commercially challenging. So the advice and the recommendations that we're going to be sharing with you won't be able to guarantee a successful recovery, but what hopefully it can do is provide you some practical steps that you can take back and start applying that will maximize the chances to enable a better recovery. And do so in a way that puts digital ambitions at the heart of your business planning. And so between live examples that you're going to hear from Rachel of what BT are doing and some approaches we'll be sharing, we hope that you're going to get some value. So please, we've built in time for questions, so please do ask. So the first thing that we want to acknowledge is that you're already down the digital transformation path, except each of you are going to have been approaching your digital transformation differently. Some of you will have been focusing on your digital brand, focusing on your digital brand presence, tracking online sentiment, building online engaged communities, or managing across your brand across multiple different media platforms. Some of you will have been focusing on digital service innovation, reimagining the way in which you deliver your current services online, enabling omni-channel experiences. Some of you will have been focusing on the digital operating model, digitizing processes and enabling things like chatbots. Some of you focusing on data as a core foundational platform and as a key enabler to digitization. Some of you may have been focusing on all those technology building blocks like cloud services, API infrastructure, and security. And the reason that we bring this up is that the investments that you've made to date may not necessarily be the areas that you're going to need to invest tomorrow. You might need to start thinking, as you jumpstart your recovery, are there areas where you might need to pivot your investments across this range of things that make up digital transformation? So we just wanted to acknowledge from the outset that digital transformation is a broad spectrum of things. And we want to start, as we go into the conversation, we'll be kind of speaking to different audience members. We want a framework that you can at least understand and place yourself in. So wherever you have been down your digital journey so far, this happened. Our office is somewhere just up here by the BBC. I think someone might have taken this the other day. So, you know, for some industries, it's been catastrophic. For some of you, it's been business as usual. And for some of you, you've been working in overdrive to meet kind of sort of demand that's been sort of extremely peak driven. This crisis has forced every business to strip back to your minimal viable digital operating model. Okay, it's shined a light on how resilient your business model is in the digital only context. Were you able to keep your audiences engaged and your customers engaged? Can you still trade and do business? Are your staff and partners able to collaborate as normal? This crisis will have exposed gaps and bottlenecks, but it will also have exposed the digital investments you've got right up until this point.
And it absolutely has for BT. I think one of the things that's become profoundly clear for us is how the work we've done to transform our partnerships has enabled us to both smoothly transition to remote working, but also rapidly pivot and respond to additional asks from our business. In BT IT, our delivery engine is powered by around 11,500 subcontractor resources from key partners such as TCS, Tech Mahindra, and Accenture. And so the work we've done over the last 2.5 years to align on outcomes, shift mindset to being human-centered and in service of our end customer, and simplifying our sourcing strategy to remove handoffs between partners has really allowed us to quickly jumpstart our recovery and adapt really fast to changing market conditions. One thing is for sure, regardless of how you've been impacted in the short term, I think all businesses will now be reassessing their business plans to improve their resiliency and take advantage of opportunity as we return to our normal places of work and move through the inevitable impending recession.
There are two things that we think you need to do to jumpstart your recovery as you go into this planning cycle. The first is to understand your starting point. It's about making sure that as you go into business planning and thinking about recovery, everyone has a really good understanding of what digital capabilities you've got today and also what capabilities you don't have. We recommend that you do this as your plans are being worked on right now so that you can identify things that you can leverage to support tactics, but also look at where you might need to invest. But also it's about acknowledging that digital transformation is transformation, and that brings with it complex organizational change. And so it's also about acknowledging your ability to deliver that type of change. And the second thing that we think you need to do to jumpstart your recovery is as digital leaders, people that are in this forum are all kind of digital leaders, it's important that you appropriately tune into the right conversations that are going on right now so that you can actually get involved in designing those recovery plans and ensure that they're digital first or digital by design.
Yeah, absolutely. And for point one on this slide, we've had to leverage our investment in our data platforms to rapidly identify shift in sales demand and channel mix, to spot new operational bottlenecks we want to automate rapidly as we go forward, and even things like understanding how to resource rescheduled engineer visits as we deploy COVID measures to keep our people safe in our customers' homes and businesses. For point two, we're designing a digitally native product portfolio and operating model for our multinational enterprise business right now that's going to abstract all of our products and services from our in-country network assets. And as we do that, we're taking a cloud-first, zero-touched, hyper-personalized approach to dramatically reduce operational overheads and increase customer net promoter scores. Our product teams are having to make a massive shift, building out new product owner capabilities, experiencing agile ways of working by embedding themselves in our squads and tribes for the first time, and embracing design thinking to undertake deep customer research, prototyping, and putting real-time feedback loops in place.
If we break that down into understanding your starting point and kind of give you some kind of practical examples of what this actually, what this could mean in practice, we spoke about those two things: acknowledging your ability to manage complex change and understanding your existing digital capabilities. So how would you go about understanding what your ability to manage change is? No matter how good your digital capabilities are, as I said, it's going to be difficult to implement new ideas to get you out of this situation. So find a framework that works for you. From our perspective, when we work with lots of different clients, helping them to transform digitally first, I guess. And the things that I think are really important for you to focus on is, firstly, is your leadership team aligned? And do you have a kind of some intentional sketch view of what you think your future business might look like? And are all leaders driving in the same direction? If your leadership team and your leadership platform that goes through senior management and people leaders do not have a common view about what your strategic goals are and how you're going to recover, you're not going to be pulling in the same direction. And as we move into these choppy times, it's really important that organizations pull together, forget siloed ways of working, and see that there needs to be extremely tight alignment between marketing, product, sales and technology and operations to kind of really drive in a common direction. Do you have a common design approach? Rachel just spoke about how there's a common design approach being infused into BT, and how that's then driving agility into the way that people are working as people understand each other and what's expected of each other at different stages of the process. So do you have that design approach understood, and is it clearly acknowledged within the organization? Do people have the digital skills training that they need and the ability to work? And do you have good change management practices that help to transition business change into business as usual? So looking across this here's an example of a framework that has been completed, but what it would call out to me if I was running this business, that I've got a fair bit of work to do to jumpstart my recovery, just to get the right building blocks in place to be able to manage change. And I know, Rachel, that critical success of your transformation was this establishment of the Design Centre of Excellence that drove a lot of this design and change capability.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, over the last 2.5 years, we've made great progress on some of the items in this kind of assessment. So our onboarding is now fantastic for people joining the transformation program. We have really strong operational alignment with our stakeholders. We've got a really mature practice around change, engagement and adoption. And we've got a rigorous process around feedback and testing ideas and solutions early. All of that, though, was really due to our investment in service design, design thinking, and business capability-led enterprise architecture. It gave us a new common vocabulary across the business. What we're now doing is scaling what we've been doing in IT over the last 2.5 years right across the business. And we're finding now, though, we have a few more things to do, a bit more work to do on things like end-to-end design governance that's inclusive of process and data model design, and a lot more work to do whole bit financial modeling and commercial modeling of the various transition states in our transformation roadmap. I think at the start of the transformation, we conducted this kind of readiness assessment with you, Stu, and if we hadn't, we would have missed the need to establish that really critical design COE. The work we did with you in our first year was critical in transforming mindset, culture and behaviours by building skills, creating learning and engagement assets, building out our method across the organisation and a single playbook, and landing really early proof points to build trust that this was the right way to approach our transformation. We've now got 4,500 people across BT trained in design thinking, and we're following the same pattern for deploying new skills and experiences as we scale agile and data skills right across the company.
The second thing, the first is obviously that enterprise change. The second is like, well, what digital capabilities do you have? So find a reference model that works for you, that covers a holistic set of digital transformation capabilities, whether that's in the digital brand space and the service innovation, the technology backbone. Doesn't really matter what the framework is, so long as you're comfortable with it as an organization. And complete a holistic assessment. What have you got? What don't you have? And if you've got it, is it good, bad, or okay? It doesn't have to be anything more complicated than that. The reason that this is important, as you're going into planning, it's important people know what you've got and what you don't have. And if people there'll be some technologies or things that people don't even know exist that may actually be available to unlock. So once you've done your assessment, then you can start assessing based upon the situation that you've been through with over the past 4 months, but also looking into your business plans. Where have you got pains? Where are you experiencing pains today? But also, where are those tactical and strategic opportunities that are going to drive and sustain your revenues, or build you brand loyalty that you're going to need as we come out into this recession and as we try and recover? And as you bring all of that information together, you're going to be able to start driving insights and understanding opportunity areas that are potentially risks. And it's so important that you then host an awareness session and present your findings to business and technology leaders so they can use it as an input to planning. It's so important that people understand what you've got at their disposal when designing for recovery, but also understand how hard it's going to be to close the gaps. And the reason that this is important is that there may be business models that your organization may want to be interested in exploring as you come out of recovery. Maybe you need to pivot your business. But if you had a business model, or looking to deliver a business model that requires significant amount of data processing, it may not be economically viable if you're not sitting on an elastic cloud infrastructure as a service that can scale out or scale up. There may be business models that people may want to innovate around that you cannot deliver if you don't have a public and private API gateway with appropriate security wrapped around it.
A gap we didn't realise we had before this crisis was the ability to assess, recruit and onboard the large number of graduates and apprentices that we bring into BT each year through digital means. And we had to absolutely scramble to put something in place that would allow us to do that. And an asset we didn't realise we had was that we could use our closed retail stores on the high street and their staff with really local knowledge as mini call centres to handle inbound chat volumes and have really local personal conversations with our customers about what was happening around them in that community. And we could also purposefully drive a shift in our inbound channel mix to amplify the benefit of that.
So the second point is about designing the next, the recovery in the digital business. And at the moment, your business will have gone through some rough waters. Demand will have been shaky, things will be rediverted. Culturally, things are going to be feeling messy. And this graphic tries to represent that in some way as we try to get to grip with what people are calling the new normal or the next normal. And there are going to be some key waypoints on your road to recovery that you're going to need to navigate. And we do expect that things are going to recover slowly. From a digital transformation, the question that you need to ask as a business and explicitly answer is, are you going to stick to what you know and run the same business you did before with and accept the status quo business model that kind of predicts the current demand and supply conditions? Or do you plan your digital transformation? And if that's the case, if you kind of say, actually, our business is going to continue to be the same business that it was, and we're just going to have to adapt and accept that we're entering a recession and demand is going to be depressed slightly, then your digital transformation plan should be targeted in a few key areas. We would recommend you to focus on investing in data quality and insights to drive better decisioning to optimize your profits around what you're buying, what you're sourcing, where you're investing your time and resources. Double down on creating emotional and social connections with your audiences and customers. It means investing in audience engagement and digital brand building to elevate the brand loyalty, which can reclaim market share from your competition, and optimize the cost base as much as possible by investing in programs that focus on process and customer journey optimization to reduce your cost to serve. However, we know that in times of disruption and uncertainty, disruption occurs in times of uncertainty. And if you cast your mind back to 2011, where everyone probably had a Nokia phone, at the times, suddenly the Google and Apple ecosystem came over, and Stephen Elop, the Nokia CEO at the time, wrote a memo to his staff, and he said, you know, our competitors aren't taking our market share with devices, they're taking our market share with an entire ecosystem. And what he means by this is that the competition weren't playing the same rules as the game that Nokia were playing at the time, which at the time was a device-centric business. So the question that your business needs to think about as it looks to pivot and to recover, are you going to challenge yourself and stick or twist your business model? Are you going to stick to your current business model on the left and take digital transformation tactics and strategies that try and bolster your brand position and reclaim market share from your competition and sort of bolster? Or are you going to try and be bold and reimagine how you would be behaving if you were a VC-backed startup reinterpreting the rules of the market and trying to beat you at your own game? And so the question is, for business, you know, you can do both, but it's important to have those conversations, because the capabilities and strategies and digital tactics that you would employ would be very different in both of those situations.
Yeah, and at BT, we're shifting our entire BT operating model to becoming a fully agile, digital-first, product-led organisation that has the resilience of an industry leader combined with the agility of a startup. That has confidence, absolute confidence in its end-to-end delivery pipeline and speed to market. And finally has the muscle memory to continually adapt and flex with rapidly shifting demand.
So as we come to a kind of a conclusion, there's kind of some strategies that we thought we'd sort of flow out here for you to jumpstart your recovery, some of which we've mentioned. So from a market disruption perspective, think like a startup. How would you change the rules of the game, and knowing what all the digital tooling is at your disposal? From a digital brand perspective, get noticed online more and activate your community to either help you in your product design or your service design, or to be your best marketeers and promoting your brand. From a service innovation perspective, invest in a design practice. We spoke about how important design practices are to actually ensure that you're working on the right things and to design services and products that create not only experience but emotional connections with your brand. From an operating model perspective, exploit remote working beyond the office stack. Everyone has been probably using Teams and Zoom pretty hard, but there are collaboration tooling out there like Mural or Miro that integrate into your environment and provide significantly more productivity benefits than you'll get from just the office stack alone. And focus on your business agility and digital skills training across the organization. From a data management perspective, make your data work harder. And on technology, pause pet projects that are investments in unproven technologies if you're not going to try and disrupt your business. If you're going to stay to the rules of the game, focus on your costs. Don't invest in those additional things. And finally, your ability to recover your business in these challenging times will not come down to any technology, but the people in your organization and the leaders within it. As leaders in times of uncertainty, we need people to be optimistic about the future. We need people to have a flexible mindset and be prepared to adapt to changes that are going to be coming our way. We need people to have that digital first mindset so that they can see the opportunities beyond traditional business models and be bold enough to make tough choices and inquisitive enough to keep challenging and asking questions.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing our BT leaders are still learning about on our transformation journey is the shift to servant leadership and abandoning those old command and control management approaches. We're asking them to empower their teams, be curious and empathetic, to embrace experimentation and harvest learnings from early failures. Now, they're not small shifts, and we're still working on it together across technology and the business. But where our leaders have fully shifted, they and their teams have much higher employee engagement scores. Their customer NPS is soaring, and they've got dramatically faster outcomes. So we know it's worth the effort.
Thank you very much. And I think we've got 10 minutes for some questions.